Island
Popping
Style.
on your TV.
And now, Urban and Island Style.
It's time for Urban and Island Style.
Island Style.
Urban and Island
Urban
Style.
and Island Style.
Get ready. Happy time.
Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Popping on the TV, Urban Island Style. Boy, la 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 da. Boy, la 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 da. Popping on the TV, Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Popping on the TV, Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban and Island Style. Urban Island Style. Urban and Island Style.
Urban and Island Style.
Our guest today is the first guest to join us as a part of my Student of Wealth education series here on Maui in Hawaii. My name is Aviella Aloha, stylist to the stars. My friends call me Taz. I am a freelance specialty hairstylist, student of wealth, and craft fair vendor booth pro. I'm also an income planner who loves to engage in thoughtful conversation about how money works. I serve the need for solutions in people's lives. If you have ever had thoughts of becoming an author, you will not want to miss this. When we come back, Miss T.A. Mystic, author of the children's book, My Bipolar Mama Bear, will share parts of the book with us. We'll be right back. Let's talk about the book. Approximately 1.6 million adults in the U.S. live with bipolar disorder, and a third of those suffer from substance abuse addictions. These diseases display similar symptoms and consequences. T.A. Mystic's daughter is among this number, and as a result became incapable of providing a stable environment to care for her granddaughter. She decided to create a way to explain and educate Nirvana Sky, her grandchild, that her mom's behaviors are big people's problems, and more importantly, to remind her that in no way are these circumstances her fault. Notably, the colors of the hats and the dresses in the book are matching to signify how this illness, specifically the mood changes, impacts the child. The term bipolar remains taboo, resulting from society terming it as an excuse for a simple mood fluctuation, or worse, terming people to be crazy and manic. These inappropriate and minimization usages demoralizes, stigmatizes, and isolates those who are suffering from bipolar disorder. There are multitudes of children who have been displaced, transitioned into new families, or currently still reside with or know someone who displays these behaviors presented in this book. Regrettably, today's world provides limited resources to educate and support this growing population, thereby hindering the development of coping methods required to enhance the processes of healing for all who are affected. My hope is that our talk today about this book will promote open-minded, open-ended, educated conversations with children that will allow them an outlet to express their feelings. This simple book may assist parents, caregivers who don't understand bipolar disorder. My wish is for everyone to gain the abilities to spread universal tolerance, support, and affection for individuals suffering from these debilitating diseases. Please welcome to the show, Miss Tracy Ann Mystic. Yay! Hi, Miss Mystic.
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to Urban and Island Style. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about your new book that you have authored and illustrated.
Yes.
So exciting. It's a very, very big topic, and I really love the way that you presented it in your book. So, who is T.A. Mystic?
Well, the name Tracy is not hard to learn. Battle me on the mic and you will get burned. I can say a vicious rap off the top of my head, and if you want me to, I bust a beat instead. No. Well, T.A. Mystic is, let's see, I always say I'm almost 50, and I am, like about a year or so to go. I am a mother of 4. I am a grandmother of 3. And I am currently the main caregiver for a granddaughter at this time, and her name is Nirvana Sky, and she's the person that this book was really written for, and she's 6 years old, so soon to be 7. So,
oh wow, that's right, birthday's coming up in a week.
Yeah, and I think to term myself, I always say those things, those titles that I'm given, right? Mother, daughter, all that things, but I think that more importantly, I'm a person of resiliency, and I love to be a motivator, and I love to, to seek my purpose and to go with my purpose in life, and that's really who I am.
That's fantastic.
Thank
you have 3 grandchildren?
3.
So then is Nirvana the youngest?
Nirvana's actually the oldest.
The oldest?
She's the oldest, and then Cortez the second, just turned 5, and then Leilani Rose is 2.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so very exciting.
That's so great, yay.
Yes.
What did you do before you got to Maui?
Before I got to Maui, and still here on Maui at the time, I am a nurse. I served many, many years as a med-surg oncology nurse.
Ooh.
First working with women's oncology specifically, and then we kind of switched over into more other realms, when the hospital expanded. And so that's really where it came from. Like, my background is mostly in nursing. Here on Maui, I've been a nursing supervisor for people that suffer from addictions.
Okay.
So, and then of course they have a lot of mental illness and things like that as well. So that's what I'm doing here on Maui at this time currently.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great work.
Yeah.
Especially transitioning from working with, people that may be undergoing chemo. That's huge. It brings a question up because you went from that background to the addiction space. Did you ever have a patient that would represent both of those disciplines, meaning someone who would be battling cancer, but they also have a mental health challenge?
Oh, multiple.
Really?
So it's not like, I would probably say 50% of my patients had some type of diagnosis of a mental illness, and some of them, may not have been chronic, but it became acute mental illness, like acute depression because of the diagnosis of cancer and things like that, or their family backgrounds. I've dealt with people that, were bipolar, that were also addicts, that, abused substances and things like that. So you have a mix because of the community that I worked in. I worked in where it was, they had lower incomes and then higher incomes, and so it crossed over, and just a whole genre of just people. And so I got like a lot of background with that.
Would you say there was a noticeable difference between those who had lower incomes and higher incomes, or was it pretty much comparable?
It depends. Like, I would say that ones that suffered from lower income, they were less likely to get the treatments that they needed.
Ooh.
And not just those treatments like for cancer and things like that, no, because we had a lot of, boards, and there's a lot of money out there for cancer, right?
Sure.
So cancer's not as taboo as a mental illness though. So you have so much funding that's available for research and trials and things like that. So if you don't have insurance, there's so many ways to go about to get treatment for cancer.
Okay.
However, if you don't have income, there's not so many ways to get treatment for a mental illness.
Sure.
And so I found that difficult. You know, I have had patients that were homeless. Came into the emergency room, found out they were sick, found out they were cancer. Of course, you got to admit them to the floor to get surgery and things like that. But the resources of trying to find them a space to actually live, you know, was limited.
Post-treatment.
Yeah, post-treatment and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting your treatment, or they wouldn't come back. They wouldn't show, come back up for chemo, show back up for their chemo. They put on a schedule, and so they didn't have the resources necessary or transportation or things like that.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole issue right there. And I've actually never been, I've never heard of this side.
Right.
For some reason, something I never thought of, transient population that are sick. And because they have lower income or no income, even if they do get there and they're admitted and they get some care or initial care, that continuation of care may not be an option because without income, resources remove themselves.
Exactly. And just making the availability for them to get there.
Right.
And, you know, when you're dealing with someone with a mental illness, you know, usually once they're discharged after that first, sometimes for more often than not, they don't return. You got to go find them, or they do return, but they return even more sick. You know, and then the cancer has spread or something like that. You know, so it's a tough population, you know, to be in, but, you know, it's, again, coming from a tribal background, you know, thinking about that and stuff, that's my purpose, right? To be that and be of community service. So I will say that we did have resources like, you know, available, but having a mental illness sometimes stops you from actually seeking those resources as well, accepting those, you know, accepting a helping hand. More often, you know, not all the time.
Just as a characteristic of the
disease itself,
condition itself. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So how did you discover bipolar disorder in your daughter? How did that whole situation come to pass?
So, you know, looking back, like I ask myself this question all the time. You know, I talk to my boys. My daughter is my only girl, and my boys and I talk about it, and they say, well, you know, Mom, she was kind of always, you know, she's very intelligent. My daughter's very highly intelligent, and I love her she's such a great soul, you know. And, you know, and it was like, she had these periods where she would disassociate, you know what I mean, from reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but didn't really look at it that way, like thinking like she's so creative and she's because she was like on stage doing poetry slams, and she was in 3 honors choirs and, you know, things like that. So, so it's like, okay. But what happened is that she called me, she left home after graduating, and she was supposed to go to college. She had a scholarship. She didn't go. She had a breakdown or something, and then I couldn't find her. Like, she was just out and about, right? And she would come home and then leave. So I sent her to counseling and all of these things, and they didn't initially diagnose her. Then she got, she called me one day and she said, guess what? And I was like, what? She said, remember, I can tell you anything. And I said, sure. And she said, well, I'm pregnant, right? And I'm like, oh. What? So accept it, you know, everything like that. We were going well. We thought, like, this is good. Like, I knew she was using drugs at one point, but she wasn't during pregnancy. She came to live with us, and we took care, and she was doing so great. All of a sudden, when the baby, Nirvana, was like about 3 months old, she disappeared. And we couldn't find her. She said she was going to the library, and she was breastfeeding at the time. Nirvana was with us, and she never came back.
Oh, wow.
Her phone, we tried to find her on her phone. It wasn't picking up. Nevertheless, needless to say, after we had to go to court and do all these things so we can get temporary custody, emergency custody, because, again, she was breastfeeding, and Nirvana needed to go to her appointments, and so all of that. She showed back up, and they found that she had a psychotic break. They put her in the hospital, probably like postpartum is what they thought.
Okay.
We put her in, got treatment, thought she was going to come back home, and then she did come back home just for a little bit, had another break, was still out there, would just leave. Eventually, 9 months later, we got, custody of Nirvana, and we sent her away for treatment. So, because she was using and, suffering from this. So we sent her to a dual diagnosis center in California.
Okay.
And
dual diagnosis, meaning more than one mental?
So you get diagnosed with substance abuse, as well as they do mental illness, other mental illnesses, like bipolar and stuff like that.
Sure.
So at that time, she was there. She was doing great. We thought she was going to come home and get her baby back and do all these things. And she got diagnosed with bipolar and borderline personality disorder.
Oh, wow.
So it's just it's this whammy, right? So it's like, okay. She came back home after 90 days, and we thought, okay. But 3 weeks later, she was back out there.
Let's pause for a minute because I can see how loving you are speaking about this and how you're speaking of it as if it didn't affect you personally. But I just want to stop and ask or check in. How are you feeling as a mother who is now a new grandmother, who has a whole life and an infant that needs attention?
And about to be an empty nester too, right? Like that was my thought. Like that was because my youngest was on his way about to graduate and go off to college, right? So I'm thinking happiness. It was challenging, and for years it was challenging. I couldn't accept the fact that I had to pretty much start over. I had been raising kids for a very long time in my life, and I wanted to take this half of my life per se for myself. But Nirvana turned out to be a blessing, for us and everything. It's heartbreaking to see what my daughter struggles and how she goes through, like even 4,000 miles away because she's back in Ohio, and even seeing that and the struggles that she goes through. She has a new baby now, that's Leilani, but she's doing better, with this one. But again, with this mental illness, it's so up and down. Right. So she can take meds or not take meds. When she's taking her meds, she's good. When she's not, she's not. I have to still be strong and be there and be resilient in the fact that I have to be there for Nirvana. You know what I mean? And that's why this book was so important. I needed a way to explain to her, more importantly, why you're not with your mom. But you're with us and we love you, and that's why, all of that and what your mom is going through, and just explain to my other kids as well, and explain to the other grandchildren and just people as a whole, because there's such a stigma on that. Sure. And I tell my daughter, I tell her all the time, and I even say it in the book that, to a dedication to her, that you're not your disease. You know what I mean? It's a diagnosis, and I know how hard that is to go through. I grew up my mother was schizophrenic, so I grew up in that.
Really?
Yeah, so I grew up knowing, with, how mental illness affects families,
Sure. Sure.
All of that. So I think that gave me a little bit more compassion as well for my daughter, and this culture as a whole, because of where I came from. Sure. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for just sharing that. I appreciate it, because for anybody that may be watching this that's searching, if you can remember what it was like to be at the beginning of it when you didn't have any answers, that may just be trying to understand not only what's going on, but what they're feeling inside. I appreciate you being vulnerable and speaking on that.
Yeah.
So you are in what state at this time?
State? Maui.
No. When you get the prognosis or diagnosis with, you were here in Maui?
Oh, yes.
Okay, you were here.
For my daughter?
Yes.
Oh, no, we were in Ohio.
Okay, so you're in Ohio.
Yes.
This is however many years ago. You are adjusting to this new circumstance. What was your transition moment to go from Ohio, where it snows?
Big time.
To Maui, like how did you make that jump with your granddaughter?
So what happened is that my partner and I, we were, we came to Maui on vacation, and we brought Nirvana. Nirvana's like 3 years old at the time. It was like in 2019. We came to Maui, and at that time, I got a phone call. Like I was working like this, 2 jobs and stuff, and I was a big supervisor for an insurance company, and all of that. And then I got a call, and it's like, oh, we're laying off your division while I was here in Maui. Okay, fine, got that. Yeah, I'm like, okay, all right. I also got diagnosed with a autoimmune disease right before coming, and I would be in so much pain and everything. But when I was here, I had no pain, and I had no fatigue.
Yes.
And so it was like, okay. So then I go back home, to Ohio. Things are coming, getting more stuff, and then I get diagnosed with another one with multiple sclerosis. So I have that.
That's
and
like
so,
the S-shape.
Yes.
Spine.
No. Multiple sclerosis is another autoimmune disease. It's where your healthy cells attack your cells, like your cells attack your healthy cells. So it's really debilitating. It can be. I mean, there's more treatment these days, but it can be, right?
Okay.
So it's in your brain and your spinal column and things like that. So then it was like, and then COVID, right, started to hit. And then people were dying. And my family, I think I went to, even pre-COVID for that, I think my partner and I, we went to 7 funerals in a year and a half.
Wow.
And so the choice came down to, listen here, either I get busy living or I get busy dying.
Sure.
And so I had to learn my self-worth, right?
Yes.
I had to get back to my worthiness before coming, because people would tell you, like, your dream. I'm like, I'm moving to Maui. And I would go to work. I remember as a nurse, I would go to work and I'm on the floor and they were like, Tracy, you're moving to Maui? I'm like, I'm moving to Hawaii. And I'm like, oh, I got 262 days. And, people question, right? They're like, why Maui? And it got to the point and they would say things like, well, the milk is so expensive. And I was like, well, I'm lactose intolerant.
Right.
So whatever, right? Things like that. And then they're like, oh, I don't know, like, you're moving them out and this, that, and I'm like, I got 262 days. Okay, I got 36 days. I got and it got to the point, and I sold this huge house that we had, and the truck came and people still didn't believe it. Even when the truck came to ship our stuff, people were just like, oh, they're not gonna do it. And we've been here almost 2 years now, and I think some people are still expecting us to come back.
Yeah.
But I'm going back just for a visit, to visit my grandchildren, and I'm coming right back home, because this is my home now, so. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good for you. You know what? That is actually a recurring theme that I've been hearing from guests in terms of the healing effect that Maui offers all to are exposed to it.
Right.
And then when you break away from that, even for a short time, then old things try to come back.
Yeah.
To you, or even compound in this area of health, mental health, emotional stability, all of that.
Everything.
So you're not alone with that. I definitely can, relate to that.
Right.
My background a little bit with mental illness is I was someone who was exposed to child services when I was younger, not because I was being neglected, but because I got sick at school in 7th grade once, and I had allergies. Long story short, because I got sick, they called my mother to come for me. She couldn't get to me before school would let out. And so that was on a Friday. When I came to school on Monday, they had called child services on her. They came to the school. I was taken to a mental institution. I was left there in March. I was not able to leave there until December of that year, and there were other people that had different diagnoses, that they wanted to medicate, and I just got a different perspective of that, just being residents with people who they were medicating for various things like bipolar or chemical dependency or whatever. And so getting here, I get lost in the beauty and the love and the ohana and the cooperation, where I don't have to go back to the mental capacity that allowed me to get through that time. And so I feel like most all of us that come here have some kind of story where we can showcase that Maui heals us.
Yeah, and it's like either, and I hear people say all the time, like, because there's a lot of people that, you know, don't transition well to the island, like they think they are, and then they go. So I find that I fell in love with Maui, but Maui fell in love with me as well. Like it called me, you know, to come back, and that's why it was so important. I've never been, it took me, 40-something years, 30-something years to move from the east side to the west side in Ohio.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
so
sure.
that's how deep, you know.
Yeah.
So to go 4,237 miles away, because I do the.
That's huge. Give
You
me
know,
that.
that's
Good job.
huge.
Good job.
That's
great.
huge, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so we're here now. Nirvana's here. You obviously have to put her in school. So she's starting school on Maui, so she doesn't have the background of the public school or private school in Ohio.
No, she went to private school in Ohio.
Oh,
she
she
went
did
to
go to
a
school.
it was very expensive, but we sent her to a kind of like a Montessori per se. It was called La Chaperon Rouge and school, and so they did science and stuff. So she started there like 3. So yeah, so it was
She's
really
so
cool.
smart.
Yeah, so she was there, and they did a lot of things like French and Spanish, and they taught home skills, like, you know, they made homemade applesauce and different things like that. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
But then COVID hit and they shut it down. So she was only got a chance to experience that maybe for like a year or so, like a year before coming. And then when we got here, we moved here, she would start kindergarten. And so now she's first grade. So yeah.
And
it's
how
awesome.
has she been adjusting? Like, does she ever get confronted with, you know how in school they have things that come up and where's your mom, where's your dad, or does she ever?
Yeah, so she's at that age now where she's asking those, where she's like, you know, I want a dad, I don't have a dad, you know what I mean? Because she calls me Yaya, and I didn't share that I have a wife, so my wife is her Gigi, you know, and so that's the thing, and so she says Yaya and Gigi, and then she comes home some days and she's like, can I call you mom? And I'm like, sure, if you want to, but she knows who her mom is. We always let her mom be a part of her life, right? She knows that's her mommy. However, you know, we have those challenges, right? Where it's just like where she's questioning things, you know, but we just keep going back to love, and we just keep talking about how, you know, families look different. Not every family has the same picture, like they have a mom, a dad, and all this stuff. And she has wonderful uncles that are great. Like she has an uncle that lives here on island that moved to Maui, just my youngest, to just be around her because, you know, and so yeah, so that kind of helps too, just to have that male influence. To be there for her. And so yeah, it's a challenge sometimes at the school. You know, the school system here is a challenge per se, because again, they have limited resources.
Right, back to the income and
exactly. And I found it hard initially. Because she, you know, she was reading already and, you know, things like that, but they say we start off at this level and they put everybody on the same level.
So she had to go
backwards. So she would, and she was just like so bored and we were having some troubles and things. You know, we're just really engaging. But it's almost as if she was meant to be here though. Like, I mean, she went to the nature camp. She does everything. She out there on the ground, like picking bugs, and just everything is so beautiful to her, and, you know, leaves and plants. And I have to go through her room all the time to take things out because I'm like, what is this? Like, you know, because she's so respectful of it. So I think that this is where she was meant to be as well, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
We kind of know what inspired you to write the book. It was for her well-being and her understanding. What inspired you to launch the book on Amazon?
So the book actually is on a few sites now. So it's on Barnes & Noble, Ingram Sparks, and Amazon, right? So it wasn't so much like just like Amazon itself. It was just getting the book out there, right? The format and stuff like. So it was a learning curve. Like I had so many things to learn about this. Like I had to get someone, initially I went through this publishing company, but it was like a self-publishing company, right? And they were supposed to do all of these things for me, like make the formats, you know, get the book editing, you know, all of those things they were supposed to do. Unfortunately, and I want to just put that out there so people can know.
Please.
Yes. You have to be careful on who you hire. Just because they say that they're in America doesn't mean that
they're in America.
They're in America. Okay. You know, and there's a language barrier, and that's what I was facing. For a whole year, I've been going back and forth with this company.
Yes.
They kept changing the words. They don't understand what the book is about, you know, and I kept saying that. Do you understand what this book is about? Well, yes, Tracy, I understand. No, you don't, because you're changing this word, this format, you know, everything else. So eventually what happened is that just literally a few weeks ago, because I'm like, I need this book out, right? I was like, just send me over what you've done. Send me over my stuff. Cut it, I'll do it myself. So then I went on Fiverr, and I talked to a friend that published another book, a friend that did this before, and she was the one that introduced me to Ingram Sparks, which is a great website. And then I hired someone on Fiverr, which is awesome, and she put it in all the formats for me. So there is an ebook format, there's a paper book format, and there's a hardcover format.
Right.
You know, so she did all of that stuff, and it was great. So initially, I messed up because I chose someone that, again, I thought was in America. But the wonderful thing about Fiverr is that you don't have to, if you don't agree with what they're doing and they don't get it, then you can, you know, request your money back and cancel the offer and everything. And that's what I had to do.
Yes.
And then I found someone else. Yeah.
So couple teachable moments in that. So the first is vet your people.
Right.
And make sure that if American business is who you like to do business with, then you are not someone who just has a phone number or whatever.
Right.
Secondly, Fiverr sounds like somewhere you could actually start the process instead of the bigger specialty business that's supposed to do that.
Exactly.
Because I found even like Wikipedia and that kind of stuff, those people are not in the U.S. That are running that. So, you know, make sure that if you're dealing with a language barrier, that you also speak the other language. Because there are people who do speak the other language, so that would be great.
Yes.
But then I heard you say something about different formats. Let's talk about that. When you say different formats, what does that mean?
So that's what I'm saying. So so on Kindle, let's just say per se, Kindle is Amazon, right? Amazon Kindle. So on there they have the ebook, which you can just go online and read the book, right? And so you can go through, and then you have paperback, where you can actually go on and order a copy of my book, right? So you can click that. I don't have a hard copy on there because you have to have a certain amount of pages for a book to be a hard copy on Kindle. But on Barnes & Noble and Ingram Sparks, you can do hard copies as well. And so you can go in there and you can just choose one of the different formats. However, when uploading your book to these sites, right? They have to be formatted in those particular things. So they got to be like, they have to look at it and there's like, if it's an 8x5 by 8x5 book, then the cover has to be something with some bleeding. There's something with some 3SP, something that I have no idea. You know what I mean? And so that's why you have to find the right person that's going to be able to help you, you know, do this. Initially, the reason why I went with the company was because I was afraid of the marketing. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was going to be okay with like printing my book and selling it out of the trunk of my car, or you know, doing my own thing.
Yeah, grassroots.
But yeah, exactly, right? I would do that, right? And then it was like, no, Tracy, this is bigger. Something I had this vision that it's bigger, you know. And I kept hearing people say, "What's your book about?" And then I would say, "Just a little bit. This is what it's about." And they're like, "Oh my God, we need that book, right? And I need to, you know, whatever." And one of my people that actually had reviewed the book, I showed it to him. He was saying he wished he had that book when he was a child. That's literally what he said, because his mom suffered from bipolar, but he didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
You know, and so, and I have had a lot of people come up to me and it's like, oh, I wish I had that. I wish I would have known, you know. So yeah, so that's really what it's all about. Just like I said, like those formats and things and just getting out there. Oh, but I was saying that I hired that company initially because I was afraid of the marketing and I wanted someone to do the marketing for me and things. Again, there was a language barrier. They don't know how to do my marketing, you know, and they don't know what the book is about. So you got to find someone that knows what it's about in order to do your marketing. You know, social media marketing, you know, now I know nothing about. So I'm hiring somebody on Fiverr to do these clicks for me and stuff. I do have a family member who runs a successful business in North Carolina and all over the world. Actually, she travels and she's an influencer.
Okay,
I have no idea what those are.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like, I didn't know a TikTok from an Instagram, from a tweet or something. You know
Right,
what I mean?
exactly.
And I would be walking around all the time and my kids were laughing at me because I'd be like, hashtag, leave me alone. They was like, Mom, that's not how it works. I said, well, I don't know how it works, but
Yeah.
you know. So.
It is a lot. And
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to it too much myself.
Right.
Because it's very overwhelming, actually.
Right.
And once I've heard from mentors, people that do it, once you start that, you have to continue, like
Right.
posting on a schedule and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on Maui time.
Right.
I'm not glued to my phone. I'm looking at the ocean and
Right,
the whales.
right, and that's one thing that I have learned, that you can hire somebody on
Yeah.
on this Fiverr that will do your postings for you,
Right.
and it's not that expensive, and so
I'm gonna have to look
Super-
at that.
yeah.
Because one thing that was nice is I was telling you I wanted to write a book.
Right.
And you was like, just get started.
that's it.
So guess what?
That's it. You started.
I got started.
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yes,
So
yes.
that is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I will utilize that tip that you said about Fiverr, even for like the book cover design
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, yes.
So thank you
Yeah,
for
you're
that.
welcome. Yeah.
Yes. Is there any other tips you would share about the initial process of putting the book together, separate from whatever you hire out for? Like you as the author, like do you have any brainstorming tips, or did you write an outline of what you wanted to write about at first? How did you creatively start writing?
So I've always been a writer. I've always written and poems and short stories and just everything else, but never published anything per se. Like I did some poems back in school that were published in these certain books and genres, certain areas and things. But I always knew that I wanted to get into this and get into writing. I would think that people think like you have to be, in order to be termed or to have like the title of a writer, you have to have all these things published and be like famous and blah, 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 and just all those things. Not true. If you love to garden, you're a gardener.
Yes.
If you love to paint, you're a painter.
Yes.
So if you love to write, you're a writer. It's already in you. There's always a story within us, right?
Right.
And it's all about how we just put that out there. You will find your way to put it out there. Just start. Just start doing that. Just start writing, and it'll come. You know what I mean? It'll come, and it'll come in different ways. And when it's ready, I know I was getting super frustrated because if I think about it, I started this book back in like 2018, right? And it's a simple book, people would think, right? But it wasn't the time. Now is the time,
Yes.
right? I had so many other things that came in my life that kind of like, okay, move that book over to the side.
Sure.
You got to take care of this area. Okay, move that over. You got to go back to, being like nursing. You like all of this stuff. Oh, you're sick. We got to take care of, all of those things. But when it's time, it's just simply that. It's the time for me to present it. Right?
Right.
And just hold on to your vision. Hold on to your passion. People think
love
that,
that.
your passion, is something, it's like, I always say it's like a burning bush per se from like the Bible, right? They have the burning bush. If you ever think about the burning bush, it never ever consumed. It never went up totally in flames and like in ashes. All it did was continue to burn. That's what a passion is. It's something that it doesn't consume you.
Right.
But it continues to burn and continues to be there. And then here and there, sometimes that flame is a little bit less. Sometimes that flame is a little bit more. And then when it's a little bit more is usually when your writing and your creativity and all of these things come out.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because even me, I wanna be a public speaker.
Yeah.
And who knows what's on the horizon, but I really love like education. I'm pretty much dedicated to lifelong learning.
Right.
I love certain topics in business and finance. Financial literacy or illiteracy
Right.
is like a huge challenge for the United States right now.
Right.
Something like 90% of people can't say that they're financially literate,
Right.
just understanding budgets and loans and
Yeah.
credit card, interest rates,
Yeah.
economics, all this kind of stuff that I love, right?
Right.
Which brings me to a point. Now you have this book. Have you thought about allocating a percentage of the sales towards some kind of investment for either Nirvana or whatever? So when she becomes of age, if she wants to go to school, she doesn't have to get in this whole student loan toboggle that's going on right now. Have you thought about that?
Yes. So there is a portion. First, there's two sides to it. So there is the 10% that will be going directly into Nirvana's accounts, which we've already set up. That's always been set up from the beginning, day one. So that's there, you know, and that's for the grandchildren as well. All three of the grandchildren have accounts that we set up for them. So that's there. And then there's a 10% that's going to go to caregiver support. So caregiver support is an organization. It actually is an umbrella. And under that umbrella, it has people that do kinship care, which is like a term that's used for like what we did initially, taking on where you don't put your child in foster care and your child comes to, you know, your grandchild or your niece or your nephew or someone else comes to live with you and things like that. But then you need that support because we didn't have that.
The income?
You know, the income. So so we didn't have that. So if you want to take your child, so my hope is that we can use that money to be like, hey, you know, I'm a grandparent and stuff, but I really need a vacation.
Right.
Can we hire someone? I need money to really hire someone to give me 2 days or so to be with this child because I'm 70 something years old. You know, a lot of grandparents are not as young, like, you know what I mean, as me. And they're up there like, look, I'm raising a 3-4-year-old right now. I need some time. So it's also to provide, you know, support for that. Or I would like to go and take this one on a trip. The state doesn't, if you have a certain amount of income, first of all, you could be in the middle, and that's where we were, in the middle, right? They didn't give us anything for Nirvana. We didn't qualify for anything for Nirvana, right? So we had to come back, you know, out of everything and out of our retirement money and things like that to take care of the center to a certain school. You know, my spouse even went part-time at work because it made more sense. And she worked at the hospital as well, and it made more sense for her to go part-time instead of paying for daycare.
Wow, it's that big of a cost.
Yeah, it was that big of a cost. Wow, it was like $700 a week.
What?
Yes, for daycare. So it was crazy.
That's more than the rent and the mortgage.
Exactly. If you wanted to go to like a good one or whatever, like you could find something that was like $300-400, whatever, but still that's a lot of money.
It is.
And you're not getting any assistance. And even though we went to the state and we were like, hey, can we get some help with this? And they're like, no. Because you guys, we have to go by your income. And we're like, but we didn't give birth to her. And they're like, oh, but still, you know.
That's so interesting. So you take up the mantle to stand in the gap and help out, and you're penalized because you are a higher income earner as it relates to whatever the criteria is for assistance.
Exactly.
Ooh,
and
so
then you put on your medical and things like that, and then your medical goes up. So it goes up from just having 2 people in your medical to now having 3 people in your medical. And so out of your paycheck at work comes $700 every pay. So that's $1,400. Then your deductible, $6,800. So it was just, it's crazy. But I always stood in the premise of this is where she needed to be. I always stood with the thing that my higher power is going to provide no matter what.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So as long as I just do the footwork, it'll all be. And that was it.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but if you have set yourself up as like a home-based business, when Nirvana becomes 7 years old, you can hire her in the business as far as the books to do something, and you can pay her a wage, and there are tax advantages and stuff like that. So you can plan income for her in that way and or for yourself because it's a deduction for your business. So
that's interesting. We'll talk about that. That's awesome.
There's so much to do with
things.
that.
That's cool.
So that's good. I'm glad you've allocated stuff because I just wanted to put that in front of you that's something because some people think about that even if no matter what the business is when it first starts, if you begin with the end in mind, and like you said, you build in the increments that are going somewhere from the beginning, then you build up something for her. And if you're able to teach her also how to be a good steward over the resources you're building from her, she will not end up with a FAFSA form. And doing private loans and stuff like that, because that is a huge thing that is taking over the world.
Oh yeah, it's a huge debt.
Have you thought about a benefits package for yourself as far as income for your work, what you've done? Have you included?
Oh yeah, I have like a beautiful portfolio of what I do for pretty much everything, like how my money is designated and how it goes to the sides and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I really learned the hard way, you know, but I watched my family, you know, I bought my first house when I was like 23, right?
Wow.
So, and I've been a homeowner ever since. So this is the first time I'm actually renting.
Who taught you that?
My God.
That's
so
amazing.
It was kind of like the background of like watching my family, you know, everyone owned their homes, right? Like everyone owned their homes initially, you know, and unfortunately drugs hit. The crack epidemic hit, everything else, they lost everything, you know, but I always had that mindset of owning my own, like, right? Like that was just something that I saw. And so then, yeah, I got the house and always was like, and then I always wanted the kids to be in a stable environment, not moving and things like that. So I learned the hard way though, like when it came to credit, because nobody taught me that piece. They were like, buy this house, you know what I mean? They didn't teach me all of that and stuff. So then it wasn't until I went out and then when I had to get to the point where I was like, let me see, I bought my first house 23 and then I was filing bankruptcy at 28.
Wow.
You see what I mean? And it's like.
The Chapter 7 bankruptcy?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, oh, okay.
What a great, that's fantastic. What a great time to learn.
Right,
really.
exactly.
You can, I mean,
yeah. So I learned, and then I was able to build, you know, from there.
That's a huge lesson that you couldn't buy.
Right, exactly. And so that was it. And then, so I've owned my own business before, you know, I still have my, you know, my own license for my business and everything. I do contract work, I did contract work and just things like that. So I do a lot of side work for myself. And I think that long as you just keep like just putting it out there, just working for yourself and putting your money to the side, and it's just like you have to be very diligent about it. Like when people would say that Maui is truly expensive, they were like, it's so expensive, how are you going to survive? How are you going to do this and stuff? And then at first I used to say, well, I don't live above my means. But then I stopped saying that.
Right.
Because I do. Because, you know, I think it was, there was a quote that I heard one time, and I think it was Oscar Wilde that said, you know, if you say that you don't live above your means, that means that you don't know how to have an imagination.
Ooh, I love that.
Now, I probably misquoted it a little bit, but that's what it was. That's the premise, right?
No.
So that's the whole thing. So I stopped saying that.
Yeah, no, you have good money management skills. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with a little if you know what to do with it and when.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's like I would tell people, like, when a lot of people got like money and things, and it was like, oh my God, why didn't you do something with, you know, like if I give you $10,000, you know, and you're always praying like, I want more money. But if you don't know what to do with 100, if you don't know what to do with 1,000, then I don't think the universe is really going to provide you with the 10. You see what I mean? Because you're not ready for that yet. You're either going to kill yourself or someone else or, you know, or whatever. And you're going to be right back there asking, you know? So I think it's just very important just to know how to live off what you have, but also learn how to feel what it's like to have more. Because that's what brings it to you.
There's a certain amount of emotional intelligence that's required. Because I remember $10,000, the first time I got a $10,000 check, and I was like, feeling anxious. And oh my God, what am I doing? I'm gonna mess it up, you know. And the first thing I started thinking about is I'm gonna divide it in these pieces, you know, 500 here, 500. And I thought, no, that's not the way to do it. And then I thought, okay, well, I first gotta invest in education because I know that'll come back. And then I gotta invest in something that I can sell because I know part of that'll come back. But then what about the rest? Do I save it? Do I, you know? And then I went down the road of IRAs and CDs, all these low interest earning, low to no interest earning accounts, which there's so many other options out there. You know, but I didn't know that at all. But I remember just being anxious, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to mess this up. Now, I believe I didn't mess it up, but I also know that there are probably many ways that I could have used that better to enhance outcomes or create, you know, or protect income, future income, create future income, whatever.
But it's a learning lesson, right? You needed it.
I loved it,
you needed it,
because now when I get some other amounts, I'm like, okay, you know, I've done it before, so I can breathe through that thing. Which is important.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. Have you ever had any mentors? Do you ever like invest in mentorship or anything just to help you guide yourself through life?
So I live for my ancestors, right? And the guidance that they provide, the spiritual guidance that they provide, the things that they went through life and that they endured. Then I also have, I like to build a tribe, right? I said I'm a tribal person. I like tribes.
I heard that earlier.
So you have to be I have an ambassador of my tribe. Now that ambassador of my tribe is someone that is going to tell me the good and the bad, when I'm wrong and when I'm right.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Important.
That's going to stand there and, support me. So that person is my friend, Fran, and Fran's my ambassador of my tribe, right? We've been friends for many years now, and she's like, I know I can call her and I can say, blah, 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 and she's like, oh, you just made a mistake on that. Like, that's just wrong. Like, you need to fix that or whatever. This is your side of the street. All of those things.
Sure.
Very important to have people like that.
Yes.
Very important to have like-minded people. I don't want people that's going to always, that want to come to my pity party and just enjoy a pity party with me. You know what I mean? No, I don't want people like that. I want some people that's going to be out there to help me, to encourage me. You have these people that what I call anchor people. Those are people you need to stay away from. You can't share your dreams with everyone. Sometimes you need to take that dream, share it with yourself, put it in this pocket, and then share it and put it over in this pocket. Because you have people, those anchor people, right, that their only job, unfortunately, is to live the victim mentality.
Yes.
But what I had to learn in life is, out of all the trauma, everything that I've been through, everything that I've seen, done, whatever, I had to learn there were times where I kept saying that I was a victim. And yeah, maybe at that time I was a victim. But right now, if it's still affecting my life to this day, I'm a volunteer.
That's right. Oh,
you see what I mean? So
I love that.
That's the whole thing,
That's
right?
so true.
So I need to learn how to change the narrative of what I'm
Yes.
telling myself.
Yes.
Right? And accept
Tell them that.
Because my narrative, right, doesn't fit my life at this time.
Yes.
You need to change that story. Be willing to change that story. Be willing to hear be willing to hear a different perspective.
Yes.
On the occurrence, and that's the only way you're going to make it.
Yep.
That's
and be willing
yeah.
to make changes.
Yeah.
That requires you to do something different also.
Right.
It's just not confessing something. You actually have to address something and make changes, make moves.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let go of something so that you can free that hand up to get something else.
That's true. Because if you got that anchor, those anchor people, those anchor thoughts, those anchor mentalities, what is it going to do? Drag you to the bottom. That is the purpose of an anchor. That's the purpose of it, right? To keep you in one spot.
Yep.
So you got to learn how to either let that go, cut that anchor, build it up, and everything else. Listen, if you can't grow with me, you can't go with me.
I know, that's right.
So that's just the thought. And it took years to learn that. Took years to learn that. Want to be a people pleaser and, all of that stuff. But it wasn't until I began to understand and define my self-worth. And accept who I am, accept who is Tracy. I got to know who I am, make myself a brand. You know what I mean?
Right.
That whole thing.
I do know.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Make yourself a brand,
That's right. That's right.
Before you can be out there and be of service to other people, you got to know who you are. You got to be going to your higher self so that you can be of service to others.
And be solid and rooted so that when the wind blows, it won't, knock you down. You got to be up. It's okay to bend.
Yeah.
But you don't want the wind to blow and it just uproot you completely.
Exactly.
And there's so many opportunities for that, especially with the amount of influencers and influential environments that we all take in daily. You have to be mindful.
Right. I choose to learn, when you say mentors and stuff, I choose to learn from or take something from almost every person I meet. Whether it's a child, whether it is an animal, whatever the being may be, I choose to take what it is and learn something from that encounter. That's what I'm seeking. I'm seeking to learn from that encounter. Whether it's something that is of challenge or what was termed bad or good or whatever, I'm choosing to learn something from that. So there's just so many people out there I look at and I'm like, ooh, whoa. Like, oh, baby, please. Like, you just go. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like, but then I have that compassion.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow. I feel sadness for you.
Yeah.
I feel sadness that you can't move forward. I feel sadness that your childhood trauma is holding you.
In place.
Yeah, that's stopping you from getting to your higher self, that's stopping you from receiving and accepting the love that you deserve, you know? So, yeah, that's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a full conversation. I have 2 more questions for you, maybe 3. The first one is, what does aloha mean to Miss T.A. Mystic?
So aloha to me, you know, is like this welcome, right? This welcome spirit and stuff. For me, again, it's just the culture. It just means community.
Okay.
It means what I learned a long time ago, or that I would hear a long time ago. Am I my brother and my sister's keeper? Yes, I am.
Yes.
And that's what aloha means to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so our last question, and I ask everybody this question. What is the most important lesson that you have learned over time spent on Maui?
Over the time spent on Maui.
Yes.
So over the time that I've been here, and like I said, it's only been a little bit over, you know, a little bit under 2 years that I've been here. So the most important lesson that I've learned is what you see may not be who I am.
Yes. Oh, one last question, Tracy. You illustrated this entire book, correct?
Yes, yes.
What made you choose the bears?
So it was just, in the simplicity of it all was just, you know, polar and polar bears. So in the book, I'm just using polar bears.
Okay, that's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And how long did it take you to draw this out?
The sketches didn't take that long at all. Like choosing the different type of hats and stuff, like, you know, making that. It wasn't that challenging. It was finding someone to actually put it digitally for me, put it on there like that, uploading my sketches and stuff, because I'm not a graphic digital person. But yeah, but otherwise didn't take long. Yeah.
Well, would you read the book for us, please?
Sure.
Yay!
All right. So, My Bipolar Mama Bear by T.A. Mystic. T.A. is just Tracy Ann. I thought it would be special to just initial. So, first page. My bipolar mama bear wears different hats that tells me how each day she will feel and act. I am her daughter Sky Bear, and I am the only one with the extraordinary powers to see her like that. Sometimes she walks and talks very fast, very, very fast, even more than me. That's because she is wearing the yellow hat for extreme energy. I can miss her so much since I don't get to see her every day. So I imagine her wearing the purple hat that keeps her safe along the way. And I'll just read the last page of it. Well, yay, she is wearing my favorite rainbow hat and she reads to me and we sing funny songs. We play and eat together, but that hat doesn't stay on for very long. Bye-bye, my bipolar bear, mama bear. I hope to see you again one day soon. I'll dream of you wearing your red hat so you'll remember that I love you more than the space between the ocean and the moon.
Aww.
So if you want more, you got to buy the book. So the book is available on Ingram Sparks, Barnes & Noble, as well as KDP, which is Kindle, Amazon Kindle.
Amazon Kindle.
Yes.
And is that, does that include Audible or no on Amazon? Is that two
No,
different
it's not
things?
Audible yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not Audible, but I just know just Kindle format is on there though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Kindle on Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Yes.
And
Ingram Sparks.
how do you spell that?
Ingram Sparks is INGRAM.
Ingram.
SPARK.
Ingram Sparks.
Yes.
Perfect. It's been such a great
you.
time speaking with you, Miss
Yeah.
T.A. Mystic,
Yes.
about your book. Congratulations on
Thank
publishing
you.
your first book.
Yes.
I'm wishing and hoping that you have many more to come. This may be the first of a book series.
Yeah, they're coming.
Yes,
They're coming.
absolutely.
Yes.
And let us know if there's anyone we can connect you to.
Yes.
To further your initiative.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Bye.
See, it's not hard to learn. Battle me on the mic and you will get burned. I can say a vicious rap off the top of my head, and if you want me to, I bust a beat instead. No.